Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here once again with Arkhan the Black's Monster Mash, going to be fighting up against the vampires. And we all had a really good discussion in the comments section last time. I heard a lot of different ideas from you guys on different ways to balance this sort of thing. There were a few people who seem to think that this is balanced, which it's not. Let's be clear here. There are some factions which can counter something like this, but I fought this pretty much this exact build myself on ladder as the Dark Elves with a very specialized counter build, including 2 Blackguard of Nagorond and 4 Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. And my Dark Riders with repeater crossbows were able to sit and fire the entire battle unopposed and use up all of their ammunition without losing a single unit model the entire time. And it just wasn't enough ammo. And the 3 of these monsters specifically, standing on top of a Blackguard of Nagorond, they just couldn't get enough attack animations in because they're getting constantly staggered by these monsters, just continuously mashing them back and forth. And they just can't get attack animations in. So even elite tier halberds are going to struggle against something like this. I want to do a little bit more testing against like Chosen with halberds and some other units to see how bad it actually is. But just based on what I've seen so far, even factions that have specialized counters will struggle. It's not unbeatable, but they'll struggle to deal with a build like this, especially if you don't know that it's coming. That being said, there's one faction that I don't think has an answer whatsoever to this build, and we'll kind of talk about why. That's the Vampire Counts. So I'm facing up against the Vampire Counts today. In terms of my build, the core is relatively similar. We've got the Regiment of Renowned Sphinx, just specifically for the fire damage, because a lot of vampire units are weak to fire. We've also got the Hero Titan, of course, and a War Sphinx, Arkhan on foot with the 2 Necrotechs, 5 Skeleton Spears, and this time we've got a single melee Ushabti, just to stand in here and mash a little bit extra. My opponent's build, he's actually brought what I consider to be a pretty solid build overall. He's got 4 Skeleton Spears backed up by 3 Crypt Horrors. Of course, you only want the anti-large. Don't really bother with any other chaff because, you know, you're just going to get mashed by constructs. Graveguard and things like that are just going to get destroyed by these constructs. So he's also got 3 Crypt Horrors for some additional AP. A Mortis Engine to help with the infantry engagement. This thing will just drain away these Wet Noodle Skeleton Spears. He's got a couple Fellbats just to tie down, you know, Great Bow Shabti in case I brought any. He has 2 units of Blood Knights for that elite anti-large armor piercing, and he's got the Red Duke on a dragon with Elsif, Potion of Strength. Let's look what else he has. Scroll of Leeching, which is very nice. It's going to take away a lot of Arkhan's magic. Let's see, Foe Seeker. He's got Curse of Years, which is a very nice debuff. Raise Dead and Invocation, as well as Dragon Breath. So a decent build overall. Elsif is a nasty debuff, and either Curse of Years or Dance Macabre can help stack that fight even further in the Red Duke's favor. So let's go ahead and kick things into full gear and kind of watch this battle unfolds as we talk about some different things. And yeah, we'll see how things kick out. You can see the balance of power initially is in the Vampire's favor heavily at the outset of the battle. I do think that's a little bit deceptive, but yeah, you can see the Mortis Engine's trying to get in here. My opponent's just trying to decide how he wants to engage here. The Chimerian War Sphinx is actually shooting its ammo. It does have a couple of guys on the side that have bows that'll shoot a couple of shots. Doesn't do the most damage in the world, but it actually does hardly any damage at all. But just dropping that Overcast Spirit Leech on the Red Duke just to try and get something done here. I think he's going to come in and lay a Dragon Breath potentially before the fighting gets underway. Looks like actually summoning up some Skeleton Warriors in the back line just to kind of tie down my Heroic Squad. Get him with that, the bound Shem's Burning Gaze with it. With the Hero Titan, does a little bit of damage, not the most, but we're going to get the mash underway here. You can see all 3 of these monsters just standing on top of these Skeleton Swordsmen that were summoned up, and the Ushabti are going to be fighting in this pocket here. Ushabti versus Crypt Horrors is an interesting matchup because the Crypt Horrors have regeneration. Let's see, Ushabti in terms of their combat stats, 23 attack and, it's wavering a little bit because of the My Will Be Done is close by, but 23 and 35 base to 30 and 24 base with poison and everything, so it's an interesting matchup. I do think the Usopp would probably lose out there, but we've got Arkhan in the black in the center pocket here, just with the mash going, and Red Duke's going to try and come down in here, but as soon as he starts to take attack animations from that the Necro Sphinx, it's going to be a bad day. And, you know, Terror guys, they'll just get destroyed by all this fire damage. You can see the Hero Titan also laser-eyeing him to death. And the War Sphinx is trying to push through, but the Crypt Horrors are good at kind of clogging things up here. You can see how my War Sphinx is not able to get through here, and it is taking some damage from the Crypt Horrors there. But just the Tomb Blade of Arkhan, that physical resistance buff, everything combined all together just means that my guys are going to take relatively little damage here, at least the constructs. You can see I'm losing out on the skeletons pretty badly. My opponent did bring in the Blood Knights here, which is a very nice play, and he's going to be cycle charging with them pretty aggressively, which is exactly what you need to do with them. You do not want to leave them in sustained combat with those constructs. Cycle in and out as much as you can, and you know, take advantage of that high charge bonus, because they don't have the greatest AP values at the end of the day, and they will get munched on really hard by these heavy AP monsters. But you can see the Hero Titan, because it also does fire damage, is going to do an immense amount of damage to this Mortis Engine here. So the Mortis Engine definitely needs to be careful as the laser eyes give it the business here. War Sphinx is also going to come in here and get a nice attack animation. And yeah, the Sphinx of Usek as well. We're going to be hitting that Blood Knight unit with a Fate of Una, but very nice collapsing this exposed flank here where I had an open rear charge. That's going to help get rid of those skeleton units even faster. However, it does give me the extra Ushabti summon relatively soon, which I'm going to be able to use to potentially pin these Blood Knights in. If they come in for a charge here on my leadership pocket, then I can summon up that the summon Ushabti to kind of pin them in place, and then just mash them with the constructs. So far, though, you can see huge invocation on the Heck, just healing all these troops. A lot of these skeleton spearmen are relatively healthy, as are the Crypt Horrors. Honestly, all things considered, he's been able to clear out a lot of the chaff units, and the constructs are starting to take some damage here. You can see the summoned Ushabti was pulled up right here, and I just wanted him to be right in the center pocket to be able to take advantage of all these buffs as well that you know, the Necrotechs are giving off, and the My Will Be Done and so on from Arkhan the Black. So yeah, the Necrotechs, they both have Restore, and then the one has, because we don't need the missile resistance buff here, of course, against the vampires, we've got this one, which is the +5 melee attack to constructs. So that gives them in total a +10 melee attack if they're standing in this leadership pocket with both Arkhan and the Necrotech. So yeah, you can see the balance of power starting to turn more and more in my favor, though, as more of these units start to crumble away. Once the vampire chaff starts to crumble away and the Crypt Horrors are exposed to direct attacks from these you know, big nasty constructs, the Crypt Horrors are going to go down super hard. You can see the just absolutely cleaving attacks from the Regiment of Renowned Sphinx. Definitely looks very cool, but I'm sure it's not super fun for my opponent at this point. Just continuously dropping Spirit Leeches on the Red Duke to force him to have to make a choice with his magic. Either heal himself or else use his magic to heal up this entire pocket, or come down into melee to take advantage. I don't think he even brought the Hunger. I'm not sure if the Red Duke can take the Hunger in multiplayer. We'll have to take a look at that, but he does get some nice damage here on Arkhan the Black, and if you're able to goon Arkhan the Black, I do think that this build would start to fall apart, because it really relies on getting that Tomb Blade to get the perpetual healing, because, I mean, Restore is a little bit limited in that you only get 2 charges of it, so even if you bring double Necrotech, you're still only getting 4 charges of Restore. But because the Tomb Blade heals constructs, it makes this build a lot more viable, in my opinion, because you get that extra healing. But you can see a lot of my units are starting to take some pretty severe damage. The balance of power, honestly, even though it's in my favor, if I were to lose Arkhan and some of my other leadership units here, it would be really, really bad. But the fact that this Mortis Engine has taken so much damage is pretty bad, and then the Curse goes off, which is going to just do a ton of AoE magic damage to all the units in this pocket here. You can see a lot of these units are going to be crumbling away at that, unfortunately for the Vampire Counts player. So the Red Duke also just doesn't have the magic to heal himself, as well as, you know, he doesn't want to come near to this fight, or else I'm going to just hit him with another Spirit Leech, and then he's down, and then it's for sure game over for the vampires. But yeah, he's able to do quite a bit of damage here to Arkhan, but again, the Tomb Blade of Arkhan has no real limit, other than you have to be in melee to recharge it. And if Arkhan's standing in a big Death Star like this, I mean, he has 90 armor, he has pretty good melee defense, it's not super dangerous if he's on foot, stand him in a big blob like this, especially with the, you know, these huge constructs providing overwatch. So you can continuously get that Tomb Blade recharging. The Staff of Nagash also gives an ability to recharge buff, I guess. It reduces the time of ability recharge rates, so you can use that constantly to refresh the time as well. And it's a lot of really good synergy that ends up making it so the Arkhan is just this healing machine, potentially. It can heal up a lot of these constructs. You can see that Khemrian War Sphinx has pretty much hit its healing cap, and I can consistently get all of my constructs to their healing cap. Even Arkhan himself is just about at his healing cap, which, if you think about it, is not... You know, the Tomb Kings weren't really designed to have that much healing. I mean, yeah, they do have some healing mechanics with the Realm of Souls, and, you know, you can take Lore of Nehekara and everything, but I do think that the Tomb Blade of Arkhan needs to be looked at a little bit in terms of balancing, and I think that would be one thing that you could do to help balance these types of builds. I've been playing a lot of practice games with, you know, Turin and Gabo King and Jonton and a lot of other really good players, and none of us have found an effective build with the vampires for taking down something like this. It's nasty. The fire damage from the Hero Titan and from the Sphinx just massacre, you know, regen units like the Mortis Engine, Terror Geist, even these Crypt Horrors, if they get direct attacks on them, will do a ton of damage to them. You can see my opponent did a good job of clearing out all the chaff. He took down this unit of Ushabti, did a lot of damage to my leadership core, but just in the end not able to take down these huge armored constructs. The vampire counts tend to struggle with large armored monsters anyway, and the Tomb Kings have large armored monsters that can heal a lot and also do fire damage and magic damage, and, you know, just this crazy anti-large bonus with the Sphinx of Usek as well. So it's a really tough matchup. I don't have any answers at this point on how to beat this for the vampires. I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I mean, obviously, other factions that can bring elite tier halberds and armor-piercing missiles and things like that will have a better chance of taking down a build like this. I still think it's going to be very challenging, but I'll do some more testing against different factions and different types of builds and let you guys know what I think. But just in terms of balancing, let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the Tomb Kings roster, and we can talk about that a little bit here. So yeah, one of the biggest issues with that build is the Tomb Blade of Arkhan. So if we look here, the Tomb Blade affects constructs, and I don't know if that was by design or if that was just an oversight, but it affects all allies in area, regardless if they're undead or constructs or anything. So one thing you could do to balance this out quite a bit is to make this only heal undead type units, just have it not heal constructs. That would help balance this out significantly. I hesitate to say nerf the charges on restore, because honestly necrotechs aren't wildly useful. I mean, they are pretty useful. The 10% missile resistance and armor buff is very nice when you're facing armor-piercing missile factions, and restore having 2 charges is pretty powerful, don't get me wrong, especially for how relatively cheap the necrotech is. So maybe nerf restore down to 1 charge, have it heal more, but only have 1 charge, maybe. Just a thought there. And then in terms of the constructs here, this is something that I may be talking about in relation to a lot of other armies as well, is to limit this rare monsters and beasts category to 2 total on ladder. I believe right now it's limited to 3 total on ladder, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I honestly think that this category should be limited to 2 on ladder, and maybe look at what what beasts are involved, and, you know, what different things are in this category. But like, I don't think you should be able to bring a War Sphinx, a Hero Titan, and the Sphinx of Usek in a multiplayer ladder battle. Like, I just think that's too much, especially with the amount of healing that you have. Maybe it wouldn't be too much if the Tomb Blade of Arkhan couldn't heal them. You know, that's just something that, who knows. I would say nerfing the Tomb Blade of Arkhan so that it can only heal undead would be a great start, and then from there we can maybe look at limiting the number of rare constructs and so on. I'm planning eventually down the line to do a discussion video about just how I would like to see balancing moving forward handled. There's a really good system in Medieval 2 multiplayer where there's if you get over a certain number of units, then they get progressively, exponentially more expensive the more of them you bring. So it's kind of like a soft cap system that I think could potentially work well. I do think that some units need a hard cap, and for example, on ladder you can only take one Necrosphinx. You have to take the Regiment of Renown if you want the other one, and I think there are a lot of other units that could be included in that category that aren't. Some probably are included that shouldn't be, like for example the Warriors of Chaos have this Feral Manticore, which is it's honestly a pretty subpar monster at the end of the day. I'm not really sure why it's included in this category, but just some minor tweaks like that, and maybe looking at this category again to see 2 to 3 hard cap. Maybe if it's only monsters 1500 plus, then it's a hard cap of 2. I'm just kind of spitballing here, just some thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.